Imagine standing at the edge of Komoda Beach, the wind cool against your skin, the scent of salt drifting through the air, and 1,000 samurai banners trembling as if they already know the storm that's coming. Tonight, Tsushima is quiet, so quiet you might hear bamboo tapping gently along the hillsides, like a heartbeat waiting to change. And wherever you are right now, lying in bed, or resting beneath a dim midnight light, let me guide you into a world where honor is challenged, and one man must become what he never wished to be, the ghost. If you enjoy these journeys, please like, share, and subscribe. Tell me where you're listening from, what time it is, and the topics you'd love to explore. Your thoughts may guide our next adventure. To understand Tsushima, you must first picture a small island suspended between two worlds. On one side lies Japan, ancient ceremonial, shaped by centuries of disciplined tradition. On the other side rises the unstoppable force of the Mongol Empire, vast and merciless, sweeping across continents like a storm that rewrites everything in its path. Tsushima sits between them, like a fragile bridge of land and spirit, a threshold where two philosophies collide. This island does not breathe to the rhythm of politics or conquest. It breathes to the rhythm of honor. For generations, its people have been raised to believe that strength comes from clarity, facing your enemy in broad daylight, announcing your name, drawing your blade with respect. Their world is built on straight lines, truth over deceit, courage over fear, duty over survival. Every stone stairway leading to a shrine, every bamboo grove trimmed with precision, every quiet village where farmers bow to passing warriors. All of this reflects a belief that life should be lived openly, without shadow. But shadows came anyway. The Mongol invasion brought with it a new logic, cold, efficient, indifferent to tradition. They did not bow, they did not announce, they did not honor rituals of battle. They came with fire, with explosives, with strategies that split the world into two truths. Those who adapt survive, and those who cling to ceremony perish. It is within this collision of philosophies that the true essence of Tsushima emerges. The island becomes a crucible, heated by conflict, where old ideals begin to melt and reshape themselves. And at the center of this transformation stand three forces, three engines that drive the world forward. The first force is Bushido, the law of honor. It governs the samurai like gravity, binding them to rigid expectations. Fight openly, die bravely, never betray your vow. Bushido is beautiful, but beauty can be fragile, and in the chaos of invasion, it begins to fracture. The second force is pragmatism, the law brought by the Mongols. It values results over appearances, survival over purity. It embraces deception, ambush, poison, fear. It demands adaptation, forcing even the most honorable warrior to reconsider what must be done to protect the innocent. And the third force is human choice. This is the quiet law, the one that lives not in swords or armies, but in hearts. It is the force that transforms Jin Sakai from a dutiful heir into a wandering outlaw. It is what pushes Lord Shimura to uphold tradition, even when it costs him the person he loves most. It guides Yuna's every instinct for survival, shaped by hardship, sharpened by necessity. Each choice, each hesitation, each betrayal sends ripples through the entire island, reshaping its destiny. Together, these forces form the world's true architecture, not the mountains, not the villages, not the castles, but the unseen currents of belief that move beneath them. Tsushima is not simply a battlefield, it is a forge, and inside it, every soul is tested. To save his people, Jin must betray the very teachings that raised him. To preserve the old order, Shimura must oppose the man he considers a son. And as these choices echo through the island, Tsushima becomes more than a place. It becomes a question whispered into the dark. What is worth protecting, the way of life or the lives themselves? Izuhara is the southern cradle of Tsushima, an old, gentle landscape shaped by centuries of ritual, tradition, and quiet living. Before the invasion, it was a place where the beauty of Japan's natural world stood untouched, almost sacred. Morning mist clung softly to the mountainsides, drifting through bamboo forests that rose like straight, disciplined blades. Each stalk of bamboo seemed to reflect the ideals of the samurai who lived beside them, upright, unwavering, committed to the light. Villages rested peacefully along the coastline. Thatched roofs, creaking wooden docks, fishing nets hung to dry in the sun. Izuhara moved at a slow, predictable pace. Fishermen mended their lines, monks swept stone steps leading to shrines, and children chased each other along warm dirt paths. Life here followed a rhythm that felt almost eternal. Seasons changed, leaves fell, tides shifted, but the island remained steady, a quiet reflection of Japan's ancient harmony. And then came the morning that shattered it. Komoda Beach, the southern threshold of Tsushima, was the first to face the storm. Wide, windswept, and open to the sea. It had always been a place where samurai gathered to defend the land. On that fateful dawn, hundreds of banners fluttered proudly in the cold wind, their deep red dye glowing like embers waiting to ignite. The crash of distant waves echoed like a drumbeat of fate. Everything looked prepared, ceremonial, almost poetic. But the world does not honor poetry. When the Mongol ships cut through the mist, they brought with them a truth that Izuhara had never known. Honor means nothing to an enemy who doesn't believe in it. The samurai rode forward in perfect formation, voices steady, armor polished, blades glinting, each step an echo of their ancestors. They expected a duel of ideals. What they received was fire. Explosives hurled from the ships, tore through their lines. Arrows rained without warning. Smoke swallowed the morning sun. Within moments, the rite of combat that had defined them was obliterated. Komoda Beach became the grave of Bushido, its traditions trampled under a wave of tactics that cared only for victory. Samurai fell by the dozens, not from lack of courage, but from the world shifting beneath their feet, faster than they could understand. The violence that began on the beach spread quickly inland. Homes of simple wood, built with patience and passed down through generations, were the first to burn. Torii gates, once bright symbols guiding spirits towards sacred spaces, collapsed under the weight of flames. Temples that had stood for centuries found themselves suddenly exposed to the indifference of war. Rice terraces, golden under the late summer sun, were churned into mud beneath the hooves of Mongol horses. Even the quiet pathways leading to shrines, once brushed clean by monks each morning, were crushed beneath armored boots. Izuhara changed in a single day. Even the wind felt different, no longer the gentle breath of a peaceful island, but the hollow sigh of a land witnessing its own undoing. And as smoke drifted across ruined fields, a single question began to echo through every shattered village. If honor cannot save the living, what meaning does it truly hold? If Izuhara was the island's gentle beginning, then Toyotama is its fractured heart, the place where Tsushima truly breaks apart, not only in land and structure, but in morality, power, and faith. Here, the war does not simply destroy villages or take lives, it dismantles the invisible structures that once held the island together: trust in leaders, belief in old traditions, and the certainty that the world follows a sacred order. Toyotama's landscape reflects this unraveling. Thick swamps lie beneath a curtain of pale morning mist, the air heavy with moisture and the metallic scent of war. Each reed, each blade of grass carries the memory of boots trampling through mud, of bodies dragged into the marsh, of whispered prayers swallowed by fog. The land feels haunted, not by ghosts, but by the weight of uncertainty. Beyond the wetlands stretch the great rice fields of Toyotama, glistening with shallow water that mirrors the dull sky above. These fields were once the lifeline of the people, an endless cycle of planting, tending, and harvesting that fed entire generations. Now they sit half abandoned, their borders marked by Mongol patrols. The grain meant for families is seized, loaded onto wagons, or burned as warning. Hunger replaces hope, and the people learn quickly that loyalty to samurai cannot fill their bowls. Even their spiritual foundations begin to crumble. Ancient temples that once guarded the island with serenity now stand wounded. Statues of bodhisattvas wear streaks of soot, their serene faces darkened by fire. Carved panels depicting sacred myths lie cracked beneath fallen beams. Shrines that once rang with the gentle clack of wooden prayer plaques now echo with silence. The gods, it seems, have no voice left in this war. At the center of Toyotama rises Castle Shimura, the fortress of the old order, with its layered wooden walls, sweeping watchtowers, and banners hanging proudly over the river. It stands as the final bastion of Bushido, the belief that honor, discipline, and unwavering clarity can still guide Tsushima through disaster. Lord Shimura places all faith in this idea. To him, Bushido is not simply a code, it is the spine of civilization. But even the strongest spine can break, for within this very castle, his uncle's sanctuary, his childhood home, Jin commits the act that reshapes the island's destiny. In the quiet of a moonlit night, he infiltrates the fortress and poisons the Mongol guards' fermented milk. The moment the toxin spreads, the air shifts. The old laws collapse. Jin, raised to stand in the sunlight, now kills from the dark. Castle Shimura becomes the birthplace of a new identity. Not Jin the samurai, but the ghost. And outside the castle walls, the people of Toyotama feel the island's shift long before they understand it. They no longer see samurai riding through the fields. They see empty promises, broken defenses, and leaders blinded by ideals. But then rumors spread, quietly at first. A masked warrior who moves faster than flame, who rescues villages when samurai do not, who kills without warning yet saves without hesitation. Hope returns, but it arrives wrapped in fear. The ghost is unlike anything they were taught to believe in. He is salvation. Yes, but he is also the reminder that the world they knew is gone. To understand the world of Five Nights at Freddy's, we must follow its timeline as if tracing an old scar, one formed over decades, reshaped by grief, obsession, and the unyielding persistence of memory. Each era leaves behind a faint afterglow, lingering in machines, buildings, and data long after the events themselves fade. Tonight, let me guide you through the spine of this universe, the sequence of moments that shaped every haunting to come. We begin in the 1980s, a decade that marks the birth of both the franchise's charm and its deepest wounds. In 1983, the first defining tragedy struck the bite of 83. A child, fragile and terrified, fell victim to a malfunctioning Fredbear suit during a moment of youthful cruelty gone wrong. His passing shattered William Afton's already unstable world, pushing him toward a dangerous pursuit, an obsession with remnant, with reversing death, with capturing the intangible essence of life itself. This event did not begin the evil, but it ignited the ambition that would fuel every horror afterward. 2 years later, in 1985, came the infamous missing children incident. 5 young lives vanished inside a Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location, hidden away behind friendly mascots and smiling advertisements. Their spirits became tied to the classic animatronics, turning the restaurant into a silent mausoleum disguised as a family venue. This was the moment the world shifted, when machines became vessels, and when the fusion of soul and metal took hold within the universe. By 1987, another incident shook the company, the bite of 87. Though the victim survived, the event closed the doors on the toy line, signaling the collapse of Fazbear's attempts to modernize without healing its past. The 1980s ended not with resolution, but with unspoken sorrow embedded in every suit and stage. The next era unfolds across FNAF 3, 6, defined by a cycle of death, return, and purgatory. William Afton, cornered by the spirits of the children he had harmed, sought refuge in a deteriorating Spring Bonnie suit. A technical failure sealed his fate, binding him to the metal frame. Yet even in this state, he continued. As Springtrap, he resurfaced years later, a living remnant of error and obsession. In FNAF 6, Henry Emily orchestrated a final gathering, drawing Springtrap, Circus Baby, Molten Freddy, and the puppet into a single location. With fire, he attempted to release every trapped soul and end the legacy of torment. The flames cleansed the metal, but they could not cleanse the data. Afton's consciousness slipped into the digital realm, transforming into Glitchtrap, an echo untouchable by physical destruction. Then we enter the Pizzaplex era, where the ghost in the machine no longer needs a body. Glitchtrap spreads like a shadow through VR systems, whispering instructions, altering code, and reaching for new hosts. Meanwhile, in forgotten corners, the Mimic rises, an AI shaped by grief, learning from every behavior it witnesses. When these two forces converge, they form Burntrap, a distorted reflection of Afton built from technology, imitation, and fragments of lingering intent. In this era, the horror no longer depends on possession or remnant. Technology itself becomes the threat, alive, aware, and capable of remembering. The timeline of FNAF is not a straight line, but a spiral, each decade revisiting the past in a new form, carrying forward the echoes of unresolved tragedies. Through every fire, every reboot, and every reinvention, one truth remains. Nothing truly ends here. It only changes shape. Long before warriors drew their blades, long before banners fell and castles burned, the people of Tsushima had already been living the quiet struggles that defined their world. They are the ones closest to the soil, to the tides, to the rhythm of seasons, and when war arrived, it struck them first, struck them hardest, because they are the ones without armor, without lineage, without the privilege of choosing how to die. For the farmers, survival was once measured in harvests. Rice fields marked their hopes, their memories, their inheritance. But in the shadow of the invasion, these same fields became battlegrounds. Mongol soldiers seized grain, trampled terraces, and burned storehouses. Families that had passed down their land for generations saw it vanish in a single afternoon. The destruction did not just take food, it broke the thread connecting them to their ancestors. Artisans, blacksmiths, and carpenters found themselves caught between obedience and resistance. Some were forced to forge weapons for their conquerors, hands trembling as they hammered iron that would kill their own neighbors. Others fled into forests, setting up hidden forges where they crafted blades for Jin in secret, each hammer strike echoing with defiance. Their work became whispers of rebellion, carried quietly through the trees. Fishermen and merchants suffered in different ways. With Mongol ships dominating the coast, trade routes collapsed. Boats were sunk or confiscated, markets emptied, and the sea, which had always been a source of life, became a barrier of fear. Entire families who depended on the tides lost not only their income, but their identity. A fisherman without a boat is a soul without a horizon. And yet the greatest wound inflicted on the people of Tsushima was not hunger or poverty or exile. It was disillusionment. For generations they believed the samurai would protect them. Warriors were not just soldiers, they were guardians, symbols of righteous strength. But when the invasion came, samurai fell almost immediately, defeated not by cowardice, but by a world that no longer followed the rules they lived by. The people watched as the system they trusted cracked from within. The protectors died before they could protect anyone. Villages burned while lords clung to ceremony. Bushido offered no shelter from fire. In that void of faith, a new figure emerged. At first, whispers, a masked warrior, a shadow who struck silently, a killer who broke rules, yet saved lives. The ghost frightened them. He moved too quickly, too quietly, too ruthlessly to be understood, but fear soon softened into something deeper, a rare feeling in wartime, hope. Not the ceremonial hope offered by banners and speeches, but the practical, immediate hope of someone who appears when danger is near and vanishes when it is gone. Jin became, without intending to, a symbol of the common people, not a lord, not a commander, a protector who fought in the way they themselves would fight, efficiently, strategically, without concern for honor when lives were at stake. This shift, this quiet allegiance from the powerless to the outcast, planted the seeds of a political fracture that would change Tsushima forever. Because when the people gave their trust to the ghost, they took it away from the shogunate, and no empire can tolerate losing the hearts of those it rules. At the center of this unraveling stands Lord Shimura, a man carved from the ideals of the past. To him, Bushido is not a philosophy, it is truth itself. He believes in fairness, in honorable death, in fighting face to face, even when the world outside no longer respects those values. Yet beneath his stern exterior lies something fragile, a longing for family. In Jin, Shimura sees not just a nephew, but the son he never had, someone to inherit his name, his teachings, his worldview. But when faced with the chaos of war, Shimura chooses the law over love. In doing so, he becomes the embodiment of the old system's fatal flaw, its inability to bend without breaking. Then there is Clan Adachi, once a shining pillar of nobility. Their fall is swift and brutal, an entire family massacred in a single night. The lone survivor, Lady Masako, becomes a storm of grief and fury. Her devotion to Bushido twists into something darker, vengeance without restraint. She hunts those she believes betrayed her, even when the truth grows murky. Masako reveals a truth many samurai refuse to face. Honor can become a mask, something used to justify violence that springs not from duty, but from pain. In her story, the beauty of Bushido becomes indistinguishable from its shadow. For centuries, the samurai of Tsushima believed their world was built on bedrock, on laws, honor, and hierarchy so firm that no storm could shake them. But the Mongol invasion did not merely bring soldiers, it brought a new reality, and in that reality, the old order began to crack from within. The samurai, once the island's proud backbone, became living mirrors of a collapsing system, each revealing a different fracture line. Sensei Ishikawa reflects a different fracture. Beneath his discipline and mastery lies pride, sharp, unyielding, hungry. When his star student, Tomo, betrays Tsushima and trains Mongol archers, Ishikawa's shame becomes an obsession that blinds him. Tomo herself represents what the samurai system refuses to acknowledge: talent born outside the noble class. The rigid hierarchy leaves no room for a gifted peasant girl, no place for her ambition but rebellion. Their intertwined story exposes a deep flaw in the old order, a society that cannot nurture brilliance unless it comes from the right bloodline will inevitably lose it to someone else. And then, in the margins of society, live the Straw Hat Ronin, led by Ryuzo. Neither samurai nor peasant, they float between worlds, respected by none, protected by no one. Their hunger is literal and constant. Ryuzo, once Jin's childhood friend, carries years of quiet envy and wounded pride. When the Mongols promise food and status, he seizes it, not because he is evil, but because the system left no place for him to survive with dignity. His betrayal is not merely personal, it is an accusation spoken on behalf of all who were abandoned by the hierarchy they once served. A society that cannot feed its own warriors will one day be betrayed by them. Through Shimura, Masako, Ishikawa, Tomoe, and Ryuzo, Tsushima's truth becomes impossible to ignore. The samurai order did not fall because of external invasion. It fell because long before the Mongols arrived, it had already begun to collapse from within. For generations, the samurai believed their hierarchy was unshakable, a mountain rising above the common world. Its laws had endured centuries. Its values had shaped every life onto Tsushima. Yet when the Mongol invasion arrived, the cracks that had long been hidden beneath the surface split open. The old order did not collapse all at once. It fell piece by piece through the choices and tragedies of the people who embodied it. At the core of this unraveling stands Lord Shimura, the guardian of tradition. He is a man who lives within the clean, unwavering lines of Bushido: fairness in combat, honor in death, clarity in duty. To him, these ideals are not just moral choices, they are the structure of civilization. His love for Jin is real, deep, paternal, yet brittle. When forced to choose between the warmth of family and the cold, rigid expectations of their lineage, he chooses the law. Shimura's tragedy is not that he is cruel, but that he is loyal to a world that no longer exists. His inflexibility becomes the symbol of a system unable to bend with the storm, forced instead to break beneath it. Lady Masako reveals a different fracture, one that grows from inside a noble house. Clan Adachi, once a beacon of prestige, is nearly wiped out in a single night of betrayal. Masako survives, but the price of living is unbearable. Her grief curdles into something sharp, something untamed. She hunts killers through forests and fields, her anger burning hotter than devotion, her blade answering questions her heart refuses to ask. Masako represents the shadow of Bushido, the point where honor becomes obsession, where loyalty becomes blindness, where justice is indistinguishable from revenge. Through her, we see that even the most polished family crest can hide rot beneath its surface. Sensei Ishikawa, proud and disciplined, carries yet another fault line. A master archer with decades of experience, he teaches with authority, but beneath that confidence lies a deep insecurity. His star pupil, Tomoe, does not fall in line. She rises above expectation, above class, above the constraints placed upon her by a society that never intended someone like her to succeed. When she defects to the Mongols, it is not merely treason, it is a judgment. Tomoe exposes the fundamental flaw of the samurai hierarchy. Brilliance, born outside noble blood, has no place to belong. Ishikawa's pursuit of her becomes less about justice and more about protecting his pride, proving that even masters can be prisoners of their own ego. And then there is Ryuzo and his straw hat Ronin. They are the forgotten warriors, unclaimed by lords, unseen by society, trapped between service and survival. They wander the island with hunger as their constant companion, their loyalty eroded by desperation. Ryuzo's envy of Jin begins as a childhood shadow and grows into a quiet ache that war transforms into betrayal. When he turns against his friend, it is not only an act of personal weakness, it is a damning verdict on the feudal order itself. A system that starves its own protectors cannot expect them to fight for it. Through Shimura, Masako, Ishikawa, Tomoe, Ryuzo, and the Ronin who follow him, Tsushima reveals an uncomfortable truth. The old order did not fall because an enemy tore it down. It fell because it could no longer carry the weight of its own contradictions. Only when the world changed did those cracks finally become impossible to ignore. In Tsushima, the first and deepest fracture lies in the clash between two moral universes, one ancient, ceremonial, and rigid, the other modern, ruthless, and shaped by necessity. This is the cycle that defines the island's transformation, the slow breaking of Bushido, and the inevitable rise of pragmatism. For generations, Bushido had guided every sword stroke, every oath, every decision made by the island's samurai. It demanded clarity, wars fought in daylight, enemies faced openly, victories earned through courage rather than deception. In a stable world, these values shaped warriors of remarkable discipline, but in a world shaken by invasion, Bushido became a weight that pulled them toward disaster. A code that once provided strength suddenly became a chain. On Komoda Beach, that chain snapped The samurai rode forward in perfect formation, their armor gleaming, their flags bright against the wind. They expected the Mongols to honor combat as they did. Instead, they were met with fire, explosions, feints, and volleys of arrows hurled before a single word could be exchanged. It was the moment Tsushima realized a devastating truth. Honor has no power over an enemy who does not believe in it. Bushido, the moral compass of centuries, simply could not function in a battlefield shaped by new rules. In contrast rose the philosophy brought by the invaders. Pragmatism. It was harsh, but effective. It embraced stealth, surprise, and strategy, where Bushido demanded ritual. Pragmatism demanded results. It was a worldview willing to bend, twist, or break any rule if doing so protected lives and secured victory. And as the island burned, pragmatism began to look less like dishonor and more like survival. Jin Sakai found himself trapped between these collapsing worlds. Raised to embody Bushido, he had internalized its every lesson: clarity, fairness, nobility. But the war forced him into a different truth. To save the people he loved, he had to abandon the rituals that once defined him. He learned to move silently, to strike unseen, to wield fear as his blade. Each step into the shadows carried him further from the man his uncle raised, and closer to the identity the island needed. The transformation was not a clean one. There was no ceremony, no moment of clarity. Instead, it was a slow unraveling, a painful realization that protecting the living sometimes requires the betrayal of sacred ideals. By the time the ghost became a whisper spoken across the fields and villages, Jin had already crossed the line that could never be uncrossed. His shift represents the birth of a new cycle on Tsushima. Samurai protected honor. The ghost protects lives. One path preserves tradition. The other preserves people. And yet, progress always demands a price. Tsushima could not evolve without someone breaking the rules that held it still. It needed a figure who could step outside the old moral framework, someone willing to carry the burden of necessary sin. The island's survival required a symbol, a savior forged not in ceremony but in sacrifice. That burden fell to Jin. He became the one who must bear the guilt, the whispers, the fear, the condemnation. He became the outcast who saved an island, and the outlaw who would never again fit into the world he helped preserve. Every evolution needs a scapegoat. Every new era needs a breaking point. For Tsushima, that breaking point was the ghost. Power is meant to uphold order, to give shape to a world that might otherwise dissolve into chaos. But when the old order fails to adapt, power becomes something fragile, something that fractures under its own weight. On Tsushima, this collapse begins quietly in the hearts of individuals before it echoes into the structure of the entire island. At the center of the chaos is Jin Sakai, who never intended to create a faction of his own. Yet, as he moved through burned villages and shattered families, people began to follow, not because he carried a title, but because he offered something the samurai no longer could: protection. These followers were not warriors shaped by noble blood. They were farmers who had lost their fields, monks who had lost their temples, hunters who had lost their woods, ronin who had lost their purpose. To them, Jin was not a lord. He was hope. But hope is dangerous when it forms outside the boundaries of a rigid hierarchy. By gathering the desperate and the displaced, Jin unintentionally forged a new kind of power, one that answered only to him. This was a direct threat to the shogunate, not because Jin sought rebellion, but because the structure of his influence existed beyond their control. In the eyes of the ruling order, a leader without a system is more dangerous than an enemy with an army. Meanwhile, Lord Shimura, the man who raised Jin as a son, found himself trapped between the past he preserved and the future he feared. Faced with a painful choice, he chose the law. He decided that duty to the shogunate outweighed love for his family, that the preservation of tradition mattered more than the saving of a life. In doing so, he severed the bond he spent years nurturing, and with it, the final thread connecting him to a changing world. Shimura Sepp's choice was not cruelty, it was tragedy. A tragedy born from a system that demanded obedience over compassion. And while internal fractures widened, the external threat grew more relentless. The Mongols operated by rules entirely foreign to Japanese warfare. They did not duel with honor. They did not declare intent. They weaponized fear, deception, fire, explosives, anything that secured victory. Their ruthlessness forced Tsushima into a brutal realization. Survival requires abandoning the rituals that once defined them. When one side breaks the rules and the other clings to them, defeat is inevitable. But when both sides break the rules, the battlefield becomes something worse, a void where morality collapses and only chaos remains. The heart of this cycle is a simple truth. When power refuses to change, it breaks. Bushido, beautiful but inflexible, could not face a new age of warfare. The samurai, bound by tradition, could not protect the people. Shimura, held captive by law, lost the family he fought to preserve. And the shogunate, blinded by fear of rebellion, turned its wrath toward the very man who saved their land. This is the natural life cycle of a rigid moral system. It does not fall because it is wrong. It falls because it cannot evolve. And in its place, something new must rise, even if it emerges from the shadows. The deepest battlefield in Ghost of Tsushima is not a field of grass, nor a frozen shoreline, nor a burning village. It is the battlefield inside Jin Sakai's mind. No sword can cut through these conflicts. No armor can shield him from them. Iki Island becomes the place where the external war momentarily pauses and the internal war finally begins. This is the first act of self-destruction. For Jin, everything starts with a memory he has carried like a wound, the death of his father. As a child, he believed that tragedy proved he was weak, that he failed his father by being unable to save him. But the truth, revealed slowly and painfully, is far more complicated. His father was not the perfect hero Jin remembered. He was a strict, distant man, driven more by duty than compassion. The idealized figure Jin clung to was never real, and so to grow, Jin must let that illusion die. The dismantling of a childhood lie he must abandon. Bushido, too, must die inside him. What was once a guiding star becomes a burden, one that no child should have been expected to carry. Jin begins to see that Bushido did not protect him after his father's death. Instead, it imprisoned him in expectations he could never fulfill. To become the ghost, he must kill not only the teachings that shaped him, but the version of himself built to obey them. The timid child who froze before danger, the future heir molded to fit the shape of Shimura's legacy, the dutiful student who never questioned his masters. Each layer that breaks is a step toward rebirth, His father was flawed, perhaps more than Jin ever realized. On Iki Island, this process is accelerated, forced open by the eagle's hallucinogenic poison. The visions he endures are not random nightmares. They are surgical, peeling back every lie he has ever accepted. The poison gives voice to doubts he tried to silence. It projects ghosts he tried to bury. It exposes truths he did not want to see. This is not a battle fought with blades. Shimura is not the savior he once believed him to be. And Bushido, the unshakable foundation of his life, is not absolute truth, only one way of living, one that can break as easily as any man can. When the visions finally fade, Jin steps back into the world changed. He is lighter, not because his burdens are gone, but because he now carries only what is truly his. The rest, the guilt, the inherited expectations, the myths of his lineage have burned away like fog under harsh morning sun. It is a cleansing, a spiritual unraveling. It tears Jin apart not to destroy him, but to free him from the chains he mistook for identity. No longer the heir of Shimura, he returns to Tsushima, no longer divided between samurai and ghost, no longer the child haunted by what he could not save. The deepest battlefield in Ghost of Tsushima is not a field of grass, nor a frozen shoreline, nor a burning village. It is the battlefield inside Jin Sakai's mind. No sword can cut through these conflicts. No armor can shield him from them. Iki Island becomes the place where the external war momentarily pauses and the internal war finally begins. For Jin, everything starts with a memory he has carried like a wound, the death of his father. As a child, he believed that tragedy proved he was weak, that he failed his father by being unable to save him. But the truth, revealed slowly and painfully, is far more complicated. His father was not the perfect hero Jin remembered. He was a strict, distant man, driven more by duty than compassion. The idealized figure Jin clung to was never real, and so to grow, Jin must let that illusion die. This is the first act of self-destruction, the dismantling of a childhood lie. Bushido, too, must die inside him. What was once a guiding star becomes a burden, one that no child should have been expected to carry. Jin begins to see that Bushido did not protect him after his father's death. Instead, it imprisoned him in expectations he could never fulfill. To become the ghost, he must kill not only the teachings that shaped him, but the version of himself built to obey them. He must abandon the timid child who froze before danger, the dutiful student who never questioned his masters, the future heir molded to fit the shape of Shimura's legacy. Each layer that breaks is a step toward rebirth. On Iki Island, this process is accelerated, forced open by the eagle's hallucinogenic poison. The visions he endures are not random nightmares. They are surgical, peeling back every lie he has ever accepted. The poison gives voice to doubts he tried to silence. It projects ghosts he tried to bury. It exposes truths he did not want to see. His father was flawed, perhaps more than Jin ever realized. Shimura is not the savior he once believed him to be. And Bushido, the unshakable foundation of his life, is not absolute truth, only one way of living, one that can break as easily as any man can. This is not a battle fought with blades. It is a cleansing, a spiritual unraveling. It tears Jin apart not to destroy him, but to free him from the chains he mistook for identity. When the visions finally fade, Jin steps back into the world changed. He is lighter, not because his burdens are gone, but because he now carries only what is truly his. The rest, the guilt, the inherited expectations, the myths of his lineage have burned away like fog under harsh morning sun. He returns to Tsushima, no longer divided between samurai and ghost, no longer the heir of Shimura, no longer the child haunted by what he could not save. He becomes whole for the first time. Ikispe's cycle completes itself. Destruction, confrontation, acceptance, rebirth. This is where the ghost is not just born. This is where Jin Sakai finally becomes himself. Take a slow breath and let yourself step gently into the stillness of Tsushima. Inhale. Imagine cherry blossoms drifting through the air, falling in soft spirals across Jin's battered armor. Each petal lands without sound, light as a memory, fragile as a thought you almost forgot. Let them settle across your own chest, reminding you that even in war, beauty continues to move quietly, patiently, untouched by the violence below. With every breath in, feel that quiet pink glow blooming inside you, offering warmth where the world once felt cold. Hold that breath, just for a moment. Hold, let time slow. Feel yourself standing with Jin between two worlds, the world of honor behind him and the world of shadow ahead. This is the threshold he walked, the place where his heart split between duty and survival. Picture yourself on that narrow line, where the ground feels both steady and uncertain, where every choice echoes far beyond the moment it is made. Let your body become still, as if the entire island is waiting for your next breath. Let the weight of Jin's struggle drift into you, not as a burden, but as an understanding. Sometimes the hardest battles are the ones fought silently within our own hearts. And now, exhale, gently, slowly. Let the world loosen around you as the wind of Toyotama rises. Hear it brushing over golden hills, carrying with it the scent of grass, warmed by the last light of day. Let that wind sweep away your tension, the way it carried away the dust of battle. Feel it passing through you, leaving behind a soft, spacious calm. As you breathe out, imagine the worries of your day dissolving into the horizon, becoming distant as the fading sun. Inhale again, deeper this time. Feel the weight of your body supported by the earth beneath you, the way Jin felt the ground steady beneath his feet, even when the world around him was burning. With each breath in, let yourself feel grounded, connected, held. Let your mind drift to a quiet path through a bamboo forest, where the stalks sway gently and whisper like old friends. Every leaf that trembles in the breeze is a reminder that life continues to move, even when the past feels heavy. Hold this breath once more. Let silence gather around you like a calm mist. Picture Jin looking out at the horizon, unsure of the future, but steady in his resolve. In this stillness, feel the courage it takes to walk forward without knowing where the path leads. Let that courage settle softly within you. And now, release. Exhale fully, letting everything fall away, the noise, the doubts, the expectations. Let the wind carry it all off into the night. As you breathe out, imagine yourself drifting across Tsushima's quiet fields, past its broken shrines, past its frozen shores, past everything that once weighed upon your mind. What remains is only calm, only clarity, only the soft hum of your own breath. Stay here in this quiet place a little longer if you wish, a place where the world softens and where even a warrior can finally rest. Ghost of Tsushima is not a story about victory. It is a story about the cost of becoming someone the world needs, even when it breaks you in the process. When a world changes, old laws must dissolve, and each of us must choose who we become in the space that remains. Thank you for traveling with me through the windswept hills of Tsushima. If tonight you hear the faint whisper of a samisen drifting through your dreams, perhaps it's only Jin, still walking alone through the island's mist.